have to start talking on the program today. I have to explain, or try to explain, what happened to me and so many others in Los Angeles here over the weekend, because I think it really is a sign of the times. It is a sign not only of the times we live in, 1984, but the sign of the times we are going to be living in, Brave New World, a.k.a. the Obama regime. We were Obama'd, and free speech was Obama'd in Los Angeles over the weekend. At least that's my take on things. As many of you know, I've been out for several days. We did travel to Los Angeles to take part in the consciousness elevating We the People Festival at the Los Angeles State Historic Park. Unfortunately, when I got there, I found out that none of the speakers would be allowed to speak that day. What I want to do over the next hour is explain kind of what happened here, what we should all know about something like this, because there are a number of, well, not only red flags, but big bloody red flags that went up at an event like this, and it shows what is a trend that is happening now all over the country and certainly all over the world. Well, I guess we just don't get that upset about it when it happens in China or it happens in Russia or it happens in the Middle East, that we just don't get that upset about it. But when it happens here in our own backyard, in the city I grew up in and lived in for over 10 years, Los Angeles, and we've seen it happen here in Texas, it really has a major effect on where we're going to go. We have to understand where we are in order to know how we're going to proceed, how we're going to go ahead. Now, I had a whole timeline here. I was going to explain this entire event, and something very interesting happened, because this whole thing has been interesting. This whole We the People event and everything that happened within it and on the ground and before it and now after it have been just one earth-shattering thing after the other. Minutes before I was about to go on air, I received my first official correspondence from the organizers of the We the People Festival, who had asked me not to share with you the things that they have said, the exact reasons why things happen. So it's going to make it very hard for me to comply with that order and tell you what happened. But what I am going to do is honor their confidentiality, at least for today, the best I can, because I want to get to the truth on this. And if all of this sounds a little convoluted, hard to understand, maybe you're not following, I'm going to go down this bullet point by bullet point with you here in the first hour of the program. And then on tomorrow's show, I'll have Cindy Sheehan, who was also censored at this event, and Dylan Avery, who was an eyewitness who was with me the entire time, also censored from the event, and potentially even Cynthia McKinney, who was censored from the We the People Fest, which many people now are calling We the Sheeple. First thing I want to say before we get started on all of this is these are a group of I don't want to say kids, but young adults who have organized this massive event, and they fell into, most likely, every pitfall and every trap you can when you're having an event. So a lot of this can be a warning to you if you're out having events. But I could have told them all of this. If any of this was communicated to me, if I was allowed to be in the loop, I could have told them how to proceed with all of this, because at the end of the day, with 8,000 people there would have been 20,000, but they were, at least I'll share this with you, the police had blocked off the entrance to the festival, saying they wouldn't allow any more people in there. If they would have pulled the plug on this event, as they had threatened to do, I'm afraid, my friends, there would have been a massive riot through the streets of downtown, and I don't think they were prepared to take that on. So in a way, cutting myself, Cindy Sheehan, Cynthia McKinney from this event was a bluff. But who did the bluff come from? Well, we have identified several sources. So I'm going to go over the timeline with you. I noticed this all started happening about 2 weeks ago when the police were meeting with the organizers of the We the People Festival. And they were afraid that one of the speakers, and I think that was more of a figure of speech, maybe it would be me, maybe it would be the other two ladies, one of our speakers could cause a riot. That was their excuse. So we begin to see the pressure start to upload into this event full bore about 2 weeks ago. Then on Thursday, the day I was leaving for California to go to the event, I noticed that the speakers were no longer on the website, something I had been checking regularly because anytime anyone invites me to an event, I always wonder if it's going to be canceled or if I'm going to be canceled, and we're just hanging by a thread the whole time, every time we're invited to any event. And, of course, as you know, I've had quite a lot of problems speaking at events, from the Edna Lane Brown event to the Dallas event to the Bowman event in Florida that I couldn't even get to because I wasn't allowed to fly. So we have had a lot of experiences like this. So I wasn't sure if disappearing off the website 2 days before the event was a major indicator that I would be censored from the event itself. When we get to Los Angeles, we see the advertising is full bore. KROQ, which is the big FM rock station, was advertising it on a regular basis. It was advertised with all of our names in the Weekly, the Los Angeles Weekly, which is a big alternative paper. And I expected this to be a very successful event. And moving on in the timeline, we arrived at the We the People Fest on Saturday. What I can call this is, in many ways, cluster fudge. I can say that on the radio, right, folks? Where so many people seem to be in the positions of power that nobody was actually in power. So we get to our booth. Luckily, we did have a booth there out of the sun. That was great. Place to meet and talk with people. And we found it nearly impossible to talk to any of the organizers, to find anyone to tell us what was going on. We didn't know what time we were going on. We didn't know exactly what the timeline was, where I was supposed to be, how I was supposed to do this. And that concerned me a little bit. And then, it was then that we began hearing rumors, which turned out to be somewhat substantiated, that the mayor of Los Angeles, Viagra Osa, as I call him, please nobody be offended. It's just easier for me to remember than Viagrosa, I guess, whatever it is. A former MECHA member, for any of you who are taking notes. Big Obama supporter, mayor of Los Angeles, came to the speakers at the last minute saying he wanted to speak on the main stage and that would be predicated on all of the other speakers not being allowed to speak. As if, the people that would lap up this kind of power would go, oh, well, forget all the speakers we promised that would speak and we've been promoting all these months. We're going to have the mayor come grace us with his presence. So get rid of them so we can have the mayor and show how powerfully connected we all are. Well, the organizers told him in no uncertain terms that they would not be doing that, and he didn't have to speak at the event, and that the speakers would go forward. This was earlier in the day. I'll keep going down the timeline for you and allow you to call in and comment on this. Maybe some of the people listening to the show were actually at this event and can give us their recollections. Stay tuned. Deadline Live, I'm Jack Blood.